Okay.
Okay. So currently with Dropbox, what is happening is that they're trying to be more of a collaborative platform. But one of the problems that's happening with freelancers is that they're having trouble retrieving information they need from their current communication with the. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, with their current communication with their clients because the information is fragmented. Um, so one of the solutions that I'm trying to provide is that freelancers can sync whatever message platform that they're using into Dropbox so that it's a lot easier to not only retrieve information that they need, but also be able to track progress of their project so that it's easier for both the client and the freelancers to keep in touch with how the project is going. So this is the first page of the Dropbox. The freelancer will be able to sync their message with this button. And then once they sync their message, then the previous conversation that they had with their freelancer, their client will pop up here. And it's organized by date so that it's easy for them to kind of keep track of what needs to be done. Um, and so when they hover over, they'll be able to expand on their date to retrieve like original message because it's really important for both parties to understand where these lists are coming from. Um, so if you expand that message, it takes you to this page where they're able to kind of see what the original message or what the client was saying. And if they hover over it, they're also able to see like which part of the message is connected with the action item that needs to happen. Um, and then in order for them to comment or kind of like link the list with the file, you can either drag the file that you have from your folder into the list, or you can add it so that you can just like easily click on it and add your message, or you can upload it directly to these lists. Um, Once you kind of checked off all of the update that needs to happen, then you simply just click on the share updates, which will send you to this page where the freelancer is able to preview all the items that have to be completed that has been completed, and they can add in final comments or any messages that they want to share to the client. Um, and then they share with updates, and the client will be able to see it in their messages. So that is the current um, updates that I had for this week.
Ooh, there's a lot of screens and so many things to account for. So I think you did it really well in just like a matter of a few screens, while also giving people the ability to view more if they need to. You need to see that everything kind of is a part of the system, like you can share it out. So I thought you did a good job on that. Can you go back to the checkbox part? Is the checkbox in the background?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, oh, okay. I wasn't sure if you just hadn't updated because we have like there is a case that the check marks are there, but the user is like they haven't yet decided to share the update or not. Are you deciding to keep the background or include the checkboxes?
Wait, what do you mean?
Oh, I thought I saw somewhere that there was like a background to the
Oh
check.
no. Oh, yeah, this is what it's gonna look like as
Oh,
discussed yesterday. I just haven't applied it to the
oh,
other.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool, got it. One thing I think this might just needs to be explored through testing and just get some feedback. I like that it's updates because basically what you are doing is there's the like how freelancers update their clients is fragmented. And so you have
Mm-hmm.
it makes sense that you would have it as like updates here. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like updates and comments sounds like two things in one.
Mm.
I'm wondering if just to simplify things, if maybe it was just like for now, it's
Updates.
just updates. And then for commenting back and forth, Um, yeah, I guess for commenting back and forth, I wonder if maybe if people just do the commenting generally in email, because it seems like most of the commenting will be back and forth through email. It's just a Dropbox trying to capture the things that need to happen in this folder in order to
Mm-hmm.
report, and the updates are aligned with how the turnaround is supposed to be. So
Mm-hmm.
but part of me wonders if it might just be easier just to focus on capturing that. And if there's like back and forth conversations, it may just like append the new thing on top of it.
Mm.
What are your thoughts on that for now?
Yeah, I agree. So I think commenting is more just an action that I mean, generally it's just like implied. So
I
the
think
only reason, like I said yesterday, was just to make it obvious because part of the
mm,
problem was that people wasn't sure if they could comment on Dropbox. Um, but
uh,
maybe the way I explain it with my problem, it might be I could just like talk over it instead of like putting it on there.
yeah, it's hard because I think the way that I guess maybe because today people don't they comment on the individual file than
Mm-hmm.
the folder itself. So I don't know if that's like I wonder if people like the way that this works now is like this is captured through syncing with Gmail, and people have their conversations back and forth in Gmail, but all those things get captured here. Um, and so this more so disseminates the comments that are in Gmail as opposed to pushing people to comment here. I think that's where I think
Mm-hmm.
it can get complicated. Yeah, I don't know if that's maybe a thought. I'm trying to remember because I did a similar project to yours. It was not so much about gathering the task, but the context about why a file was shared. And I don't know why we didn't. I think I suggested the ability to reply, but if replying in the back and forth communication is on Gmail, I think maybe that should be the default, but it helps provide context in Dropbox so you know where it's coming from, but it's not, this doesn't become another medium for conversation.
Mm, I see. So it's more like you can kind of like quickly comment and like in response, but not like a full depth message how like Gmail does. Like short responses.
If someone uh I'm
Okay,
saying to
mm,
add a commenting system into this updates, I'm saying I worry that might that might feel complicated. I'm trying to I think like how it is. Maybe it's like maybe what's throwing me off is like it's called updates and comments.
mm,
For examples, when you have files, they don't call it files and comments. You're commenting on the file. So when it
I
sounds like
see.
separate nouns, it starts, I'm like, which is what? It's really
Mm.
that updates is as the primary thing people are latching onto. And that's what I was thinking. Like,
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
yeah, like for Notion, Google Docs, you can comment on it on the file, but they don't call it like docs and comment. It's implied that the comments is about the primary focus. In this case, it's the we can comment on the updates. So maybe like commenting's fine. It's just I think to call it both things is really confusing because there's like two nouns.
Okay. I think another question that I had is like what do you guys think about mentioning that Dropbox wants to become a more collaborative platform? Does that give more context of why I created this project, or is it an assumption?
Uh I think for Dropbox, they want to be a collaborative platform because there's a lot of business and wanting collaboration. Like you invite other people and you use the product all the time. And I think I've heard a lot of people say like Dropbox is just not like that. I don't think that's exactly true. I think people just aren't used to it, and the ways that we've tried to create collaboration haven't been done very well. So I think you can say that Dropbox has a focus on collaboration, and you are trying to solve the collaborative workflow between freelancers and clients. Like, I
Mm.
think that makes sense. I wouldn't be like, no, like there is no collaborative workflow. You
Mm.
are, and you can say like this project aims to simplify this collaborative workflow between the client and the freelancers. Um, like I think that's like something that you could say. It's like vague, but I can tell directionally where you're going with this.
Mm.
And yeah, and we can work together on the test plan to see how people might think about this. Is
Mm.
yeah, I think what's going to be really hard is that people think of file sharing as just like purely like it's just really what they're used to. But I know like the news like Dropbox comes out with all these tools and features because one, I think they're trying to push collaboration, but two, like you saw in your research, people are just pogo sticking in and out experiences, and they want to just centralize that around one tool as opposed to many. And maybe people would find more value in that and like actually pay for it because it simplifies their life.
Mm.
Because I think if you said Dropbox wants to be more collaborative, I think people would be like, huh? That makes no sense.
Mm. Okay, I see. I
Actually
see.
might make you feel weird and question your entire project. And then you'd be like, oh no, am I going in the wrong rabbit hole? But you know, like mentioned, like Dropbox has tried to do versions of this, albeit not.
Mhm.
I even did something like not exactly like this, but it was around giving people the context on why something was shared because there's conversations about it surrounding it. It's not just like here's a file and it is associated with a project, it's associated with a message, and people are more likely to take actions if they know what is associated with this file. Similarly, it's just instead of it's just more specific context. There are things that you need to do. So I don't think you're in like the wrong headspace for thinking about this. In case anyone you test is like, what WTF? But I do think if you just said like there you are solving these fragmented collaborative workflow, you're aiming to do that. I don't think people are gonna like give you a hard time. Sometimes users like, why would you do this? Why would you do this? And they don't understand the full picture. They can be weird.
Mm. Mm.
Sometimes people are very prescriptive and like tell you what to do and tell you what to build.
Oh,
Sometimes it's like that.
good to know. Yeah, I'll definitely take that into consideration. I think what's been very helpful for me this week is just like flushing these like tweaks with you has been very helpful to just like think about how I'm gonna say it. I think focusing on next week, like part of it is prototyping and like like wrapping it up, but also like kind of like writing the outline of what I should say to explain it.
Yeah.
Um,
As you're
yeah,
prototyping, you can kind of anticipate what you probably would ask
yeah.
because a prototype is for you to ask questions.
Mm.
Yeah. So yeah, and I think setting up the right context for them, I think will be pretty critical. And you know, in this part, you could say, okay, imagine you synced your messages, and these are the action items. And if they ask you about the technology, like just say like Dropbox's technology was able to figure this out, I think people will be like, okay. And if they really are like, I don't believe you, like Chat GPT is able to tell what action items are,
Mm, I
if
see.
that's what it is, they can figure out what's going on in the message thread and the date if they have all the right metadata. Well, I'm not an engineer. I I I think because of my past project, I think this is able to happen. And so if you and that's like some things people might say, and then they might say like, "What are these actions?" If you just say this was like back and forth conversations with your client, and usually in your emails you talk about what you need to do and agree on it, I think they'll understand. This doesn't look that different from my conversation with that lady.
Oh, the freelancer.
Oh, sorry, the freelancer. Yeah, it's just like way more organized than what we were saying.
Okay. Yeah, and this week, shout out to Faye and Chris for, helping me out and like on Wednesday while I was mid prototyping. And then thank you, Jay Wong, for like finalizing it. It's been very helpful. So yes, on the right track.
All right,
Thank you,
yeah,
everyone.
good. I appreciate too that you went ahead and did all the details in recreating Dropbox. And this was like, I feel like you have had so much more momentum now, and I feel like for the in the beginning, I think it was like there was maybe like doubt on your end, or like you're feeling lost, like how would this even happen? And I
Yeah.
feel more proud of yourself, like, oh, this does make sense. And one way to look at your solution is just think to my experience. Does it look like what me and that freelancer were doing, but easier? I mean, that's what it looks like. So from my end, even if I, as a client, can't see it, well, I guess I would have seen it in an email or seen it in a message.
Mm.
And like that's all I care about. Like did the person do the action item, and can I see like that they did it? Like those are some things that if you see that reflected in those previous examples, and this is solving that problem, you've done a good job. And even then, even if you don't solve the problem, I don't think everyone 100% solves the problem in any usability testing. There's always something that could be better. And I've had a student before where I think she was in like a not the right rabbit hole, but then she pivoted like a little bit and it was okay. So I think it's just trusting that even if it doesn't work out in the way that you would have hoped, the point of user research is to learn, not to prove yourself right. Because proving yourself wrong will lead to the right thing. Because you learn what it takes to solve the problem.
Question, what happens if people don't want to use this after doing user testing?
The issue is not so much about if they don't want to use it, but more so why do they not want to use it? Because so I do think there are some risks with this. Some risks are that people are really stuck in their ways and they're like, yeah, I see that it's capturing the action items, but like my to-do lists are like somewhere else, and like I just prefer to do it in this way, and people might be really stuck in the ways. That could be the case. um I would just still again try to figure out like what about this is not driving enough value. Are they confused by how it works and that's why they feel resistant? So I think as long as you can figure out why people don't want to use it, they're not motivated to, I think you'll have to take that and iterate, and you may or may not need to pivot. But I think it'll be, I mean, I think you'll be in a good space. Let's just get the test results and kind of see where it goes. And
Okay.
if you need to interview someone, well, I feel like I was the freelancer, but once on Dropbox, but I think I was working with another person and she was managing all the updates. But you can test on the receiver, right? Like I think it'd be good to think about the receiver experience too, which is just the email version, right? You can test that with me. I feel like I'm pretty good at thinking, not like trying to be not biased. Like even though I know the solution, I worked it for Faye, I do still try to. I'll actually say things that are different from what you've ever heard me say, because now I'm really putting myself in the user's shoes. So yeah, I'll be there if you need anything. I think it'll be interesting to see the receiver side and the users and the client side, because it's possible that if it's just really plain simple and easy for the receiver, I think the clients would be actually like more open to this.
Mm.
Like for me as a client, I was annoyed at the freelancer because I didn't know what file was what.
Because it simplifies whatever you're talking about. It's just easier to see
Yeah,
in
it
one
was like
centralized space.
she's saying she made this change, and so I think she told me she made the changes. But you know, sometimes she sent in this message and then sometimes somewhere else. So then I have to scroll, and at that point I'm kind of like lost. So I think that's why maybe trying to see what both sides might look like could be pretty helpful. Okay. All right. Thanks, Julie. Good job. Let's keep up the momentum. It's awesome so far. All right.
Thanks,
Faye,
everybody.
Jeffrey, feel free to leave comments in the chat or at least give Julie some kudos. She had gone through like finals and being sick a lot of times and stuff to get here, and also a very hard project. So yeah. Okay. Jeffrey or Faye, feel free to comment on anything, or one of you guys can go next.
Yeah, I can go next, but yeah, I just want to say really good job, Julie. I was really impressed with like your kind of design, and yeah, I'm really happy that you're able to already kind of be at the step, even though I know you have like a lot going on.
Oh, thanks, Jeffrey.
Yeah, for sure. Um, so yeah, I will share mine. I think this works. Okay. Yeah, so my case study is on Twitch, and it's mainly about optimizing the ad experience on Twitch for the users. So to kind of just give a brief introduction of Twitch, Twitch is basically a online site or a mobile app that you can download from the App Store. And the primary purpose of Twitch is so that users can watch these live streams by content creators in real time. They can interact with these live streamers, and these live streamers can, again, like kind of talk back to them in real time. What kind of makes this really different from other media platforms like YouTube is, again, just that live experience. YouTube is, really most YouTube videos are pre-recorded and then they're like edited up, so you're watching like 10 to 20 minutes of an entertaining video. But live streams basically go on for hours and hours. The streamer is basically always there talking, playing games, or doing activity, and so you kind of feel more like you're watching more of a friend rather than just just a random video from online. So my pain point for Twitch is basically that there is a lack of discoverability of the option to skip ads entirely. And a lot of people think ads are annoying. Like we've all gotten that one YouTube video where there's like so many ads every single like minute or so. But those ads are more of a minor inconvenience. Ads on Twitch are really detrimental to the user experience, as well as to the streamer themselves. And the main reason is because, unlike a YouTube video, when ads play, when an ads play on a YouTube video, the video is paused, and once the ad is over, you can then continue on with the video without missing anything. However, for Twitch, when the ad plays, the streamer is still streaming. The streamer isn't going to, stop just because there's an ad playing, because honestly, half the time they also don't realize that there's an ad playing. And so with that, you're going to be missing out on a lot of important moments. So kind of take this into example. Let's say we're watching the finals of an NBA game. And there's, a minute left in the fourth quarter. And it's a really tight game. Someone tries to shooting the game winner, and all of a sudden you get an ad. Well, if you're watching this on YouTube, that's fine. It's a little inconvenient, whatever, but the video will immediately resume once you finish with the ad. But let's say on Twitch, with an ad, you just missed this moment. And so one of my purpose of this study was to really improve the option to remove these ads. So, for example, on Twitch right now, there is a premium service called Twitch Turbo. And what this basically offers is an ad-free viewing experience across all of Twitch, as well as some other benefits. However, this service is really underutilized right now. And the discoverability of it is also just really poor and difficult to find. So right now, I'm going to just kind of walk you on how to find Twitch Turbo right now. This is the main Twitch page. This is like the home page when you type in twitch.tv. And if you kind of just go through this, you'll see that these three dots highlighted. Once you click that, there will be a drop-down menu. And then you kind of have to find you have to sift through all of the general and help and legal stuff of Twitch to really find Turbo, which is down here. Again, this is a poor experience. No one is going to, you know, look through this and then realize, oh, there's Twitch Turbo. And even then, once you kind of find it and you go to the Turbo page, this website is also just really poor because it doesn't really tell you much. It tells you the basics, but it doesn't really exhibit the benefits in a way that users can properly understand. So for my kind of solution to this, I try to basically read the sign.
Is that?
Sorry?
Oh, can we backtrack to page? Sorry, I'm just starting because why doesn't it exhibit information in a way that people understand?
Oh, yeah. So for example, this ad-free viewing, it's like a weird kind of stop sign. It doesn't really tell you like it doesn't really tell you that like, oh, you don't really get ads. It just kind of says like, oh, it's like ad-free. It's really also just like the expanded emote set. What like emotes do I get? For other sites like Discord, they also offer a premium service that have additional emotes and stickers. And how they do it is they kind of give you a sample of like the emotes and stickers that you can get. With Turbo, you don't really see anything new. It's just a weird smiley face, but that doesn't tell you like, oh, what emotes am I getting? In addition, custom chat username colors. How do I know like what type of colors do I get? Like how
Really
will it
ugly
show?
colors.
Yeah. I don't know if the colors are going to be ones I like. So again, these illustrations and icons just don't exhibit the benefits as best as they could. So my design solution to this was to basically kind of improve the discoverability of Twitch Turbo. So again, this is the homepage of Twitch, and this is their old design, and this would be my new design. So right off the bat, you can easily tell that there is this bright purple banner at the bottom. And this is really just to really just make people aware of Twitch Turbo. They don't necessarily have to even click the learn more button to, you know, learn more about this service, but it's just to really make the service aware, because a lot of people right now don't even know that much about Twitch Turbo throughout my interviews I conducted. But again, I kind of made this design, and all of these wordings and icons were chosen because I really wanted to connect this service to the community culture of Twitch itself. So for example, this bottom left lizard icon, it exhibits an emote called PogChamp, which you may or may not have heard of, but it's basically just to kind of exhibit some excitement. And with that, I had the words "try your Turbo trial today" just to indicate that that there is a free trial associated with Twitch Turbo, and you don't necessarily have to pay right off the bat. And yeah, so once you click learn more though, it kind of redirects you to this little pop-up, and you can again scroll through. You can scroll through like this little pop-up and to learn more about Twitch Turbo. So again, all of this wording and terminology is very kind of like created just to resonate with the Twitch culture and community, just because one of the things really appealing about Twitch is the community aspect of it. So I went through some few iterations, and I'll kind of show you. So the top is kind of like the old one. And before I had just really like never miss a climactic moment for like the headlines, or like unleash your creativity with emotes. But I kind of changed that because throughout my throughout some user conducted interviews, a lot of feedback that I received was that like this text is a little bit wordy, and like it kind of blends in with like the subheading text below it. So I kind of changed it up, and at the bottom you'll see that there's like it's like now just like no more ads, special emotes access, splash and color, and unique turbo badge. In addition, I also changed some of the imagery up a little bit. So for example, on the top, the never miss a climactic moment one, it was really hard to tell that it was an ad, and I was actually struggling to try and create an imagery that shows that it's an ad. However, after my interview, someone gave me a really simple and great idea, and it was just to really just say like ad 1 of 5, because Twitch already does that when you get an ad throughout watching streams. In addition, another key aspect that I kind of forgot to include at first was that a lot of the reasons why people subscribe to users, like, and subscribing costs $5 minimum, is because they just want to support streamers. That's like the culture, that's the community part of Twitch. And a great concern was brought up. If I buy Twitch Turbo, would I still be supporting streamers? Because wouldn't all of that money be going to Twitch itself, rather than if I subscribe to someone, that 50% of that is still going to the streamer? So another thing that I made, and you can see on the bottom right, is that Turbo supports streamers. The imagery still might need a little bit of editing, just because I'm not sure if it properly conveys what I'm trying to say. But it's basically just that partner streamers still receive ad revenue just without the ads. And that's a really important thing to the users of Twitch, because that's, again, just kind of their identity with the culture. And again, so here's also some adjustments I made. The top is like the previous complete purchase page. This is kind of my addition, where like my new design of it. I try to make things a lot more simple, a lot more just kind of pleasing and modern looking. And one thing that I really wanted to stress in this was that you get 2 weeks free. That throughout this whole process, I wanted to make it seamless, but I also wanted users to understand that you have 2 weeks free, and that billing starts after the 2 weeks end. So you can still cancel at any point in time. And yeah, so that's basically all my new designs with Twitch Turbo. And yeah, I think that's it.
Woo! All right, good job, Jeffrey. Yeah, one of my favorite things that I learned that was different was explaining more about how Turbo does help streamers, because that's something that's like entirely new and a really different way to reframe Turbo, especially because it seems like the community does not care to support Twitch. They care to support the streamers. Like, that itself is a value add. And I think if that was surfaced actually sooner, even like sooner than the other benefits, I think that would be really cool to people. So I really like that addition. Okay, can you go to the initial banner that you have? Just like
Yeah.
try, yeah. One thing that I think could, if it seems like people were just they wanted like really short text, maybe you could try like, I'm trying to think. It could be like, try your Turbo trial and catch while catching every moment or something, because it says like Turbo twice, which is kind of repetitive. So that's like one way that I think you could try to like shorten the text if the concern is that. And then if ads are what draw people, it's possible maybe the subtext, I don't know, it's kind of like one really long sentence. So I know it's like a sentence and then there's something like a subheading below that. I'm not sure. But maybe another thing you could do is say like watch ad free and more, so they see one really big thing and then it could lead to something else. As just like some ideas on shortening the text if a lot of the concern is around text. Oh, Julie wants to come back into the Zoom call. Okay, but yeah, overall, how do you feel about the feedback, and what are some next steps? also, how do you feel? What are some next steps? And a few pieces of advice for everyone here based on what you learned.
Um, yeah, so I think the feedback was really great. How I did my interviews was like I had more experienced user with Twitch, so that was like someone who uses it pretty much like every day, where it even streams sometimes. Like a moderate user, which is someone who just kind of uses it every once in a while to watch someone they really like, and then someone completely like inexperienced with Twitch. Like they may know about the site, but they have like never used it at all. And I think kind of doing those interviews really helped me out because I really got to see like the pros and benefits of like kind of each side, especially because a lot of my stuff was really in tune with the Twitch culture. So for example, like the more avid user of Twitch, he really liked that there was like a lot of like this terminology and emotes that like he sees every single day in a Twitch stream. He really thought that was like exciting and like just made it more interesting to him. The average user or the moderate user also thought that, because even though they use it once in a while, they've like come to recognize some of those stuff. And more or less because of their like moderate knowledge of Twitch, they were able to get some of like the more difficult terminology like Edge. And then the new user was really great and kind of just giving me some feedback too, because they didn't know anything about this. They thought it was funny. And even though they said they like would never probably like get it just because they don't use it, it was like great feedback to just like see if like it kind of made sense to them in that sense. Um, I guess for my next steps, I'm going to just kind of like refine some like spacing, just kind of make everything look a little bit neater, and then really just kind of work on like validating this to like shareholders. I know Jen, we already kind of talked about this yesterday. But yeah, that's kind of like what my next steps are. And I guess my piece of advice would be just to kind of like I think for me what really helped was I really took a step back and I tried to look at things from like a really like broad perspective. I think like before I was really trying to tune in onto some things that were like a little bit unnecessary, where just like wasn't like the most use of my time. So yeah, I think if you ever kind of get like stuck, or if you're ever having like trouble with something, just try to take a step back and just like look at things from like an overview if you can. And I think that will really help with your like design process, or like whatever problem that you're trying to solve.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Jeffrey.
You
All right. Off we go. All right. Thanks for copying back on the call. Okay, Faye, you're up next. So I think it'd be helpful to just share like what were some of the things that you uncovered in your research, the goals you have for your project. You can we saw the prototype last week, but you can just briefly go over what the prototype is about, what you're aimed to test. For example, one of the things you like your hypotheses, right? You're testing to see like how does having more like modernized examples impact impact someone's like motivation to do this. And then I know you only had like one user research call, but I think it'd be cool to just share like what were the biggest takeaways from that in relation to what you were trying to test.
Oops, I'm on mute. So for sure, yeah, I think visually, my prototype looks fairly similar to what I had last week, with some tweaks and fixes here and there, just in terms of like visual design. But brief recap, do my case study on Khan Academy, which is a education tech nonprofit that is looking to bring the classroom to the world and make it more accessible, make learning and education and vertical mobility more accessible. So as I was embarking on this project, some of the biggest pain points encountered was that people were demoralized and maybe demotivated when it came to personal finance, because they struggle to learn and how to improve their financial health in a meaningful way. Specifically, it's broken down to 3 main buckets. So people are overwhelmed by jargon and educational content that can be difficult to understand and cause anxiety. This could be terms, vocabulary, big blocks of text, very long articles. Another thing we found was credibility was a big thing. People weren't sure, what sources were trustworthy, what sources, may have been a little less trustworthy, what to believe. And then at times advice didn't seem actionable. It didn't seem tailored or relevant to the person's financial circumstances, whatever that may be. An example would be paying off your credit card debt. Not everyone is maybe fortunate enough to be in a position where they are able to, yet that's, a piece of advice that a lot of people are getting. And it talks more about the ideal state rather than maybe, the minimal viables action, the next best action that a person can take. So coming out of that, I came up with a few different design goals that my prototype is based off of. The first being to ease and reassure people learning new concepts that they can learn it, they can improve, and that they're not alone. A few different ways is using relatable references, using images to that are like soothing and entertaining, and try to make information easily digestible. The next relating to the credibility pain point, so providing credible financial recommendations that are personalized to the user. So that they're more likely to take that advice. So particularly, making it clear that these recommendations are based off of, say, the user's personality or financial circumstances. So it feels like it is tailored to them. And then finally, making the advice actionable. Providing very feasible and practical recommendations. Based off of that person's financial circumstances. So taking into account, say, that person's, risk tolerance or, existing mindsets as it comes to money. And then, so heading into more of the research goals. So I've conducted one usability test already, and in general, kind of heading into this, I wanted to first evaluate how successful my design is in making it more easy and more comfortable for users to comprehend financial concepts. I want to evaluate the level of trust or relating to credibility that users have in my design and helping them navigate the financial journey. I want to evaluate the motivation that people have in terms of improving their financial health. Do they feel like it's possible? Do they feel like it's reassuring? And then the level of actionability or practicality, how easy do users feel like this next step, is for them to take, I think these relate to a lot of my hypotheses coming in, that one, users are more motivated to learn when they have modern real life scenarios. Users are more willing to take action on recommendations if it's relatable to their circumstances or to their personality or their mindsets. And then finally, people are more likely to undergo behavior change. They understand, the psychology or the mindsets of how they think. So it's still early. I still have a few other usability tests to go through. But I think the one I've had so far is very eye-opening. I think that in general, what I've realized is my design is very much at the intersection of what is it, education and behavior change. So it is, I think one thing I've learned is that it's very imperative that people understand like how one thing leads to another, and and the importance of not having things seem random or arbitrary. Um, I think that I think that something I've noticed is that users want to feel like the different parts of the design tie together. Where there are moments where earlier parts of the test is referenced and it makes sense, and there's a line that can be drawn. I think there are some areas that are a little random and confusing. I think another thing that was uncovered is I feel like I have a better idea of the ideal state, um, you know, um, of this design, which is that people want to explore. They want to learn and wonder like, oh, what happens if, say, I like change this thing? What is the change in the personalization? What's the change in the feedback? I think something that shows is it becomes more fun, becomes more engaging in that way. So that's something that I've realized as well. And I think in general, there are parts where maybe my design could have been more actionable, or specifically there could have been more of a call to action because of the personalization draw. The solutions should be more more of like a recommendation, right? Like not just here, take a look at this list that's online that you could have found anywhere, but it's more like, oh, hey, like based off of this, like these are the top whatever that we think that you might be interested in or might be most appropriate for you. I think that's been what's most valuable and most for users to come to Khan Academy, not just to learn, but to to discover what is most appropriate for them. So that like relevance piece. So those are a few of the really key insights that I've uncovered so far. So I'm looking forward to continuing to finish up, interviews to see, which of those points are, seconded, maybe some new points are like surfaced as well. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Next steps, continue usability tests, and then get ready for the next stage of iterating and implementing some of this feedback. And I'm feeling really good about the direction. I think like I think it's very interesting, like getting your design to a point where like maybe personally I like felt pretty proud of like where it's at, but still getting feedbacks like, oh, understanding, yeah, there's a lot more to go. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yay, thank you. Thanks for laying out all this information and going through it. I think this time setting up the context on your project was a lot more structured, and it was easier to see how your design relates to everything that you have here. And sorry, something's poking me. You were talking about, I think, behavior. Yeah, this is the intersection of behavior change and also learning. And I think something you can say to really elevate the direction that you have is state that this is what you're trying to teach. Personal finance is very different from something like math or science, because this is something that people this involves like maybe poor habits that people might have in their lives and people are more sensitive to. So, you know, there's maybe less emotional sensitivity about math or science. And this is a very unique way of approaching. And you're doing that by being reassuring. You're doing that by being relatable. And one of the design decisions that you did to do that is to explain that, for example, maybe 80% or X% of people are in similar shoes. And you're testing if how that might affect how one learns. Because I think we talked about this in your test. It's like, is this a financial assistant? Is this a learning platform? And it's not really a financial assistant. I think it's trying to make the learning seem more forward moving, because as you pointed out, knowing is not enough. It's having something like having some homework. You're essentially kind of giving people homework to do. And yeah, so those are just ways that I might elevate what your project is trying to do, because this is different from what they have. It's a really big departure, and that's not a bad thing. I think just really explaining why and the ways that you're doing it can be good. So yeah, how do you feel about that feedback? And I know you're gonna finish up your interview, so yeah, any advice for everyone here based on what you learned would be pretty helpful. It could be open-ended, could be case study, could be confidence building, like whatever you feel like has been most helpful to you.
Yeah, so I definitely agree with the feedback. I think it's an interesting intersection to be at. I think it's yeah, maybe education isn't the most specific way to talk about it. I think like it's almost like the intersection of behavior change and like identity almost, because I think a lot of the struggles related to personal finance is like identifying as someone who is anxious when it comes to money, or takes like not ideal like actions, or like maybe even self-destructive actions in terms of like finance. And I think a lot of my design is assessing and acknowledging that, acknowledging the current state, and then trying to create a like a non-intimidating and like and actionable path out of that. So you can take these like series of small behaviors that like maybe that go against that assumption, and you start to realize and learn that, and just feel like, oh no, I can take better actions. I can I can be someone who learns more about saving, learns more about investing, and things like that. So yeah, it's very interesting intersection, can be challenging, but I feel really good about it. I think advice, I think for me, personally, I think just learning to tackle the lessons or the work with more urgency. I think like frankly, when I feel like I got my design to a like a pretty good place recently, I think I maybe like took my foot off the gas a little bit, but I think with the usability tests and feedback I've gotten, I feel like it's been a wake-up call that there is a lot more work to be done, that there is it's far from perfect, and it's always been far from perfect, but it's just being more aware of that. And it's like a wake-up call in a sense. So and I feel like this is a very integral part of like the design experience. I think like there are going to be times where you feel like your design is like really good, you're feeling good about it, and then like someone else be like, yeah, this this seems off, this is random, and then you realize like, oh, there's still so much more to go. So I think that's something that I've realized is, keep the pedal on the metals, understand that there's always going to be more to do, there's always going to be like more iterations and things like that. So something I learned recently, or been more aware of recently.
All right. Yeah. Thank you for sharing your words of advice. Momentum is definitely really key in design. It's definitely what do people say? It's a marathon, not a sprint. So it's okay not to like always sprint because you'll burn out, but definitely knowing that hopefully there's always more to improve. There's so much to look forward to. Building a sense of urgency and having momentum in your project is really key. I feel like that's like what every person in each cohort said. You lose that momentum and then you just chill and then you fall off the boat. Very hard to get back on. So always making sure there's like a decent level of urgency and momentum. So, and you all can depend on each other too to build that momentum. You have each other. Love the accountability calls that you guys are doing. Those are one of the ways to build momentum, or like giving each other feedback. Like feedback is momentum. So that's something moving forward. So, all right, good job, everyone. I'll sync back up soon. All right, bye.